this is undoubtedly a big setback for Mohammed Yunus, the person who is at the helm of affairs. In fact, it turns out that after Donald Trump has actually stepped in, the USAID directed its Bangladesh partners to stop work immediately. This is after Trump signed an executive order re-evaluating global foreign aid, claiming the program was misaligned with American interests. Now, is this Trump's nation-first stance being reiterated, or is there a wider calculation behind this entire decision? On your screens that we're going to put out in a short while from now is the very document of the USAID, which basically called for the suspension of all works in Bangladesh. Now, this is important as Yunus was often seen as a lackey of the Biden administration, or more specifically, the Democrats. However, the Trump administration has now started its crackdown against the Yunus regime just days after coming to power. Now, what might have prompted the United States of America to come out with this decision? Well, it must be noted that this comes days after our sources told us that the Pakistani ISI and army officials were actually in Bangladesh. Is Trump trying to crack down on this very news that we are putting out? I shall tell you more, but as we are now also getting in some more breaking news hinting at a possible China angle in the USAID's decision. What you see on your screens, these were meetings that took place between Pakistan and Bangladesh. And in fact, reports basically suggesting that the ISI chief perhaps was actually in Bangladesh just about a few days ago. Now, what's the ramification that's really happening? Is this a growing nexus between Bangladesh, Pakistan and China signaling a new threat to India, as Ulfa camps are now reportedly being constructed along the Bangladesh border, and with increasing suspicions surrounding Yunus' stance on Paresh Barua? The region is now becoming a completely volatile hotspot, with Pakistan's ISI already planning operations in the northeast. The US, in fact, is also under pressure to reassess its aid decision. Are these activities the catalyst behind the US crackdown on the Bangladesh-Pakistan-China alliance? The growing violence against Hindus, unchecked terrorist movements in Bangladesh, and the expanding reach of the ISI suggest that these developments could have far-reaching consequences. Now, has this strategic shift by the United States been influenced by these very threats? Now, under Hasina, remember, there was a death penalty in Bangladesh against the Ulfa commander Paresh Barua, but when Yunus came to power, that sentence was actually removed. Let me also bring in my colleagues Arth, who's joining us from the newsroom, and my colleague Anirudh, who's currently joining us from Guwahati. First, Anirudh, to you with regards to what's really happening on the ground, because some reports essentially suggesting that Paresh Barua has once again got a foothold, this time in Bangladesh, and with some sort of a tacit understanding with Yunus's caretaker government. What's really happening on the ground?
Yes, Sawan, if we go by our confidential sources, which have really confirmed the news that Paresh Barua has in fact sent 3 or 4 of his emissaries to Bangladesh in order to get a negotiation with the Bangladesh government led by Yunus, and they have also met with the Bangladesh army officials recently in between from 15th of January to around 20th, and it was there were several rounds of talks between the Ulfa and the Bangladesh government, including the Bangladesh army, as a result of which the Bangladesh court have very urgently picked up the hearing of Paresh Barua's death penalty, which was sentenced during Sheikh Hasina's tenure. Bangladesh High Court took up the matter, and not only within less than 20 days, it was first commuted into life imprisonment, and thereafter it was made into 14 years imprisonment in jail. So this development took place after the Yunus government took over after the complete military overrule in Bangladesh. And yes, let us not forget that the Ulfa had a significant amount of investment in Chittagong. In Chittagong, the Ulfa had a significant amount of investment. Yes.
I'm sorry, Anirudh, I'm running short of time. That's why I'm cutting you short. Let me quickly also bring in my colleague Arth, who studied this very closely to see what are the links that are basically emerging right now. Arth, you've looked into the finer details of every report that is now coming in from Bangladesh. First, you have the Pakistan's ISI chief, perhaps in Bangladesh. A clandestine meeting takes place with the Bangladeshi army. Then there are reports basically coming in that the Ulfa is once again regaining their foothold in Bangladesh. What's really happening?
Well, Shravan, under the Hasina government, this particular Ulfa commander, Paresh Barua, was sentenced to a death penalty. And that was changed immediately when Yunus came to power. And now with Pakistan's ISI in Bangladesh, the concerns are higher than ever because we can predict a particular sinister plot which might be in play to destabilize the northeast because Paresh Barua, once again, Ulfa commander, might be very instrumental for these Pakistani sinister forces when it comes to bringing instability in the northeast region of India. And furthermore, when we talk about the Trump administration's crackdown on the Yunus regime, suspending USAID, it's definitely a good development for the Indian side because we might predict that Trump is cracking down on this very nexus which is in the works between Pakistan, Bangladesh and China. And furthermore, how we have time and again seen Donald Trump being one of the only global leaders raising his voice against the Hinduphobia that is ongoing in Bangladesh. So definitely Mohammed Yunus has been taught a lesson this time and Donald Trump is cracking down on the Yunus regime. Back to the studio, Shravan.
Thank you very much, Arth, for that consolidated report, as well as Anirudh for getting us the latest from Bangladesh. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all that we could pack in this edition of This Is Exclusive. I'll be back tomorrow at the same time with a bigger story coming up on Monday.